Welcome to a tale that begins with a simple garden chore and unfolds into a life-changing adventure. Imagine a young boy, a deal with his dad, and a hike through the woods that takes an unexpected turn. It's a story about curiosity, kindness, and the extraordinary ways our lives can intersect with others. As you listen, you'll discover how one small moment, just a glimmer in the mud, can ripple outward, touching hearts and transforming futures. Stay with me because this is where the magic begins. We often aren't thrilled doing odd jobs in the garden. Your clothes get dirty and you come across insects and animals that you would rather not encounter. You prefer to do tee garden only in the summer, but unfortunately sometimes it has to be done when it is winter. For some people, working in the garden is a hobby. Likewise, for the boy in this story, the S is the story of how a simple deal, a change in a hiking route, and the kindness of a young boy changes the lives of 3 different people. But before we start our story, smash the like button, make sure to subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you won't miss any new stories. Mark SMI is a 9-year-old boy from Redding, California. He lives with his parents and brother in a beautiful suburb of the city. He attends a private middle school and spends a lot of his time helping his dad out. They live a happy and uneventful life, but that is all about to change. Although Mark loved helping his dad, his biggest pet peeve was chores, worst of which was raking the yard. Mark was willing to help with anything else in the house. So one day his dad sat him down and made an interesting deal with him, a deal that left Mark confused. Mark's dad, Paul, had come up with what he felt was a great plan to get Mark into raking the grass with less complaints. He explained that every time Mark racked the grass, he would get to do their favorite activity during the upcoming summer break. Though Mark couldn't understand his dad's motive, the deal was enough to get him to rake the grass with no complaints. Soon school was out and summer vacation was in full swing, which meant Mark could finally reap the benefits of his deal with his dad. Mark was excited and couldn't wait for the weekend to come. His brother would be coming back, and they would both be able to spend time together. But what was this activity Mark loved so much? The 9-year-old boy has an older brother, Peter, with whom he is very close. Mark and Peter didn't always get along. That was until Mark was old enough to come along with Peter and their dad on their special activity together. The 3 of them would walk or hike up the trail in the woods together. This was nice because when they got high enough, they could also camp for the night. You see, the family had a holiday home in the woods about 20 kilometers from their house. There they spent the night camping in the backyard and going in if the weather condition changed. This was Mark's favorite thing to do, and he couldn't wait for his brother O come home as he had stocked up on his points. Their family rule, it was 2 more days till Peter would get back home. After that, they would both head into the woods with their dad. The day after Mark had cleaned up his gear and was excited to go, but he felt extremely bored staying home alone with little to do. Because of the Smith family had a very strict rule. They were not allowed to play video games or watch television for more than 4 hours a day. While Mark and Peter did not usually mind this rule as they enjoyed being outside, it meant that Mark had nothing to do in the house while he waited for his brother to come home. Mark likes to explore things and prefers to build huts with his brother in the woods, especially in the woods near their holiday home. It's a big wooden house with more than 3 hectares of terrain. This is where Mark will find the object, T-Hat, would change everything for him and his family. Soon Peter arrived and both boys spent the night planning their outing for the next day. They had not seen each other in weeks and were excited to be out in the woods again. This time they would hike more than 10 miles. Before they knew it, the D-Day arrived, but with its own set of complications. Hen, they arrive at the forest. His father parks the car. They check if they have enough to drink and eat and begin their journey. Halfway through their hike, the unexpected happens. It begins to rain. This is very uncommon in California. Seeing the rain, their dad suggests that they turn around and head home. However, Mark insists that they continue on. He makes a counter-suggestion, taking the long walk towards their vacation home. They had not intended to head there that day, but Mark also added a great point. Paul insisted that, with the growing rain, their usual route would not cut it. They would need to take a new trail that cut the journey in half. Both boys nodded, accepting the compromise as fair, and all three of them set off on the new trail, hoping to make it to the vacation home in one piece. The new trail was shorter but a little steep, and with the rain it proved a little difficult to maneuver through. Finally, after 2 hours of walking, they arrive at the house. They are all exhausted, but most of all they are glad to be at home. But then trouble strikes again. Peter groans loudly when Mark and his dad turn in concern. Peter points to his legs. His brother Peter has a bit of trouble with his feet. They immediately decide that he has to rest. They choose a suitable place in the garden. His father puts a rug on the grass so they wouldn't get wet. Peter had very fragile legs. When Mark was still 5, his older brother had been badly injured in a car accident. Although he had miraculously survived, he had needed surgery and rehabilitation for his leg. This meant that Peter's leg would occasionally hurt, especially when strained, so while it was not shocking, both Mark and his dad were concerned. When they sit down, Mark suddenly feels something stinging against his lower leg. He couldn't tell what it was, but it was causing a weird sensation beneath his leg. Soon it felt like the area was numb. Mark was scared. He had heard that there were some poisonous snakes in the woods and feared that they would bite him. He motions to his dad to help him take a closer look, still too nervous to search for the bite mark himself. However, H's dad explains that there are no bite marks. There is, however, something much smaller stuck on his leg. Mark sighed in relief, glad he was not poisoned, but now he was curious and wanted to know what had gotten stuck there. To his surprise, he sees something glittering. The object is very small, but shimmers like the sun. Peter and his father are very curious. The object is covered in mud. Mark tries to remove the mud from the object with a stick, then he sees what it is. The object was tiny, even in Mark's small hands, but it was still covered in a lot of mud. His father asks him to be cautious, but even before he is done speaking, Mark's curiosity gets the better of him, and he begins to wipe the mud off the mysterious glittering object. Both he and his brother are shocked to see what it is. It's a glittering gold ring. Very slowly, he takes the ring out of the mud and puts it in his palm. Looks like the ring has been there for a while because it is a bit deformed. Mark's father immediately sees that this could be a real gold ring, but who owns it? Mark passes the ring to his father. Mark's father used to work in a jewelry store and therefore knows a lot about jewelry. Paul attentively searches for a text or date through which he can see who owns it. There is none, however. The ring has a tiny engraving etched onto it. Paul is shocked as the ring has no ownership tag, but from the engraving it is clear someone he cared about it. He decides to leave it up to his son. He explains to his son that since he found the ring, the choice would be up to him on what is done about it. Mark thought about it for a moment, considering what his father had told him. He was not sure he was making the right decision, but was glad his dad and brother both trusted him to do so. Seeing no other option, he made up his mind, but even his dad didn't expect the response he gave. He informs his dad and brother that he would like to take the ring to the jewelers in town to know what it's worth. He figured that if they got lucky, maybe the jeweler would know who made it, and that person would know who originally owned the ring. Paul was proud and nodded in agreement. The three decide to go back to the car and drive home to Reading. If they hurry, they can still go to the jeweler in Reading at the end of the afternoon. Once there, the E-value of the ring can be determined, and maybe they would get a lead on the owner. The hike back was easier since the rain had let up, and all three of them rushed back into town. Lucky for them, they made it in just when the store was about to close. The jeweler explained that they had 5 minutes left, so Paul quickly brought out the ring and requested a quick appraisal. The appraiser took out his glass and quickly got to work. When he returned, things would take an interesting turn. The jeweler immediately sees that the ring is made of real gold, 24 carats. The value is around $3,000. He stares at the ring for a few more moments and looks shocked. Suddenly he says the ring is actually worth $10,000. All three of the smiths are shocked by the value and are left speechless. The jeweler smiles, seeing their shock, and explains that he can actually get the ring back to the owner, who refuses to be named. He asks Paul if he would like to sell the ring to him or simply return it. This was a strange question, and Paul asked if there would be consequences for selling, but the jeweler simply responded. Paul turned to his son and explained the choice was still his to make. This surprised Mark, and he knew he would need a few more minutes to think. After speaking with his dad and brother for a moment, he made up his mind. His answer shocked everyone in the room. The jeweler was shocked and left speechless. After a second, he began to laugh. Paul wondered why the man was laughing at his son, but he was quick to explain that he was simply shocked. He explained that Mark would still receive the $110,000 BI as reward money for the return of the ring. A few days later, Mark and his family were still reeling from the drastic change in their life when they got a call. It was Ephraim the jeweler who explained that the owner was so touched that she wanted to offer Mark another gift, a scholarship to the university of his choosing. The whole family was ecstatic, and the jeweler explained that the owner would like to meet Mark. Mark was nervous, but decided he wanted to meet the person who had positively impacted his life. He was shocked to find out that the owner was a very wealthy older lady. The ring had belonged to her husband, and he had bought it with all the money he saved up, using the little money he had left to make a tiny engravement. She told Mark she had another gift, but wasn't certain he could use it. Mark was a little confused by her statement until he saw what she was holding. It was an engagement ring. She explained that she had included it as part of the reward money, but wasn't sure what a child his age would do with it. However, Mark had an ingenious idea. Mark explained that he knew someone who needed an engagement ring, someone super close to his family. The old lady laughed and said his name is Justin and he was Paul's close friend. He would often babysit Peter and Mark and take them out to get fast food. However, he had recently been having a hard time financially. Mark had recently heard him tell Angie, his dad, that he was saving up to propose to his girlfriend, but it was proving difficult. Now he would be able to. He is speechless and doesn't know how to thank Mark. Finally, his Dr. Eam can come true. Less than a week later, he romantically proposes to his girlfriend, and she says yes. Everyone is overjoyed, most of all Mark, who feels great about the use of the two rings that had come into his possession. Mark proves that teaching and allowing kids to act in love and kindness is always a rewarding experience. Mark is now much older and will soon be heading to college with no worries of debt. He often visits the old lady and they talk for hours while Josh and his wife are doing great with their children.